for Webb because doing so, it can save its fuel and increase its operational
What
life
up, people?
at 1.5 million kilometers from here.
And that really is important, 1 million miles, isn't it? And so there's a real proper slingshot effect. And the there are ultra high tech, and that's exactly what Webb is, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
Check.
very convenient for Webb. It's also located in a nature
Check.
reserve. So this is the perfect
Microphone
meeting between
check.
nature and technology, and people come from all over the world to work here. But one thing that's been very important for Webb is cleanliness, because you know that one speck of dust could alter the vision of the observatory in space. That's why we have been extremely careful in keeping a pristine environment in all our facilities, from Webb's arrival in French Guiana to sealing it inside the rocket.
So let's talk a little bit now about the Webb Space Telescope. I really don't think you need me to tell you that it is the product of a feat of human ingenuity. And you don't get to make a telescope as complex as the James Webb Telescope and as remarkable without tremendous amount of collaboration. And the James Webb Space Telescope is indeed the product of a partnership between 3 space agencies who came together to create it. NASA, the European Space Agency, and also the Canadian Space Agency. So here to talk about that now is Greg Robinson from NASA. Greg, thank you very much for coming to the floor, out of the fishbowl as well for us. And we're talking serious teamwork here, aren't we?
Yes, Katie. We've benefited from an amazing partnership with the Canadian Space Agency and the European Space Agency. Over the life of the development, we've had more than 10,000 people actually touch Webb, 29 states in the U.S. and 14 countries across the globe. And not to mention the amazing industrial base across the globe that have benefited here. In order to do bold missions like this, it takes lots of resources.
I gotta change my fucking batteries and the light.
Everyone's expertise.
And how did this bold mission get onto an Ariane 5 European launcher?
So as part of the partnership, the Canadian Space Agency contributed science instruments, and they're incredibly important for this mission. And so did ESA, science instruments, and the amazing Ariane 5 that we will see take us on this journey and put us in the right direction to get to Lagrange Point 2. And we're looking forward to that.
It's a tremendous atmosphere here, isn't it, in the Mission Control Center? There's a real buzz here today. I wonder how you must be feeling, Greg. I mean, it's got to be a very, very emotional time knowing that your telescope is sitting there on top of the rocket, getting closer to launch.
It's certainly amazing. Often talk about the butterflies, and people keep asking me, have they started? Have they started? And yes, they're starting. And when we get to about 20 minutes out, they will start flying a lot. So
well,
the excitement is just amazing.
The excitement is building, and of course everyone very cool, calm and collected. Thank you, Greg Robinson. You can take your position back in the fishbowl now, because I know you've got a lot of work to do. And
Get in the
Greg
fishbowl,
Robinson,
Johnny.
thank you very much indeed for joining us. So the Ariane 5 launch vehicle is the heaviest lifter in the Ariane
That didn't help any.
in the Ariane family of launchers. And Raphael, she has got an incredible track record of success.
Yeah, this is a very reliable and successful rocket. Webb is going to be the 112th
This fucking guy, the wind's gonna blow him over, dog.
And the very first Ariane, the Ariane 1, took off exactly 42 years ago. Yesterday, this was on Christmas Eve, 1979. Good symbol.
Yeah, and hopefully we're going to get a good Christmas present today as well. And, I mean, the rocket is also, you don't get to build a rocket like this without collaboration either, do you?
Of course, just like Webb, actually.
But of course.
12 different countries have been participating in the development of the Ariane 5, with Ariane Group now being the industrial prime.
And we have a scale model. Right.
That's right, I'm on a VPN, sucker.
The rocket is made of sections, and we often call those stages, which is what you might hear during the commentary.
Exactly. So first you have the 2 boosters, solid boosters, that are located on each side of the rocket. They will provide the main thrust in order to literally push the rocket against the gravity of the Earth.
Literally push
Then you have
the rocket
that form
into the pizza
pie.
pie.
Cryogenic stage with the main engine Vulcan at the bottom.
And then you have the Webb telescope
Vulcans.
right at the top. inside the fairing.
It is right there on the launch pad, and together
Some
they are
raptors on
put
that
on
bitch.
top of the third
Got some
stage,
icicles
a
falling
cryogenic
off the
stage,
roof.
and it is
Or a
this upper
Sasquatch.
stage that is going to place Webb into orbit.
And what about the engines? What are we going to see at liftoff?
At liftoff, we first see the main Vulcan engine
Not that cheap.
ignite first. We do this because we want to check it's working properly before we switch on the solid boosters 7 seconds later. Once it's done, there is no turning back. The rocket is going to lift off. And so, yeah, that's very...
Where's my chat,
don't
Johnny?
be surprised.
Where's all the
Don't be
Johnnies?
surprised if you don't see the rocket lifting off for 7 seconds. That's time for the rocket to actually warm up before soaring into the sky.
So once we light the touch paper, you can count to 7 before it actually lifts off. Now, one of the advantages of the Ariane 5 vehicle is that it can be modified, and that's exactly what we've done for today's launch. We've had to make some changes for it to be able to host the Webb satellite. And joining me to talk about that is somebody who, the right person for the job indeed, because he was in charge of those changes, Daniel Deschambre from the European Space Agency. Thanks for joining us, Daniel.
First, we need to recall that Webb will be the largest payload to be ever accommodated on
What the fuck? Is everybody fucking Russian?
It fully occupies the volume of the fairing, with gaps as small as 10
This fucking
centimeters
thing's
for
definitely
diameter 5
doomed.
meter. It is the reason why we had to develop a specific integration procedure to ensure that there is no contact with them.
Oh, we're screwed, Johnny.
After separation, during separation, the venting system of the launcher has been improved in order to balance as much as possible the inside and the
Por
outside
favor.
pressure of the fairing.
Repita
And this
por
is
favor.
due to the fear of depressurization shock, which could damage the delicate layers of Webb submersible shield. After separation, due to the fact that Webb, some equipment of Webb are very sensitive to sun exposure, the roll control of the launcher will be tuned in order to make sure that Webb is always oriented only one face to the sun. And in addition, to avoid any hot spot, the launcher will create some oscillating movements, like a barbecue mode, to avoid any
Barbecue
overheating.
mode?
And after Webb separation, there will be a specific end-of-life maneuver to be applied on the bus stage in order to put it on a liberation
On your mustache.
around the
What,
sun,
dude?
in order to avoid collision in the long term.
Thank you very much indeed, Daniel. So we'll hopefully see the upper stage rocking in space. Not quite all the way around like the familiar barbecue, but a slightly different movement. Listen, gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for being with us today. I know that you're busy. You've got jobs to do inside the fishbowl, so I'm going to send you right back there now, and very best wishes for the launch. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our telescope has a long journey ahead of it. It's
Long journey.
Miles to its destination in space, its
I mean,
working
icicles fall
zone,
off the roof, dude.
where it's going to start telling us all about our universe. It's already started.
Ooh, look at all of our money about ready to fly away from the
because it's
fucking Earth,
travelled
Johnny.
To the launch pad from Los
Fucking
Angeles.
me and you paid for that shit.
After final tests were concluded in Los Angeles, Webb was packed into a special container
Oh,
and
pack it up,
transported
dude.
along the LA 405 freeway, which had to be closed because it's so big. It traveled on a
Make sure you
special ship.
follow it with 1,000 cars so
A lot
you can
of
charge another fucking couple
spacecraft
billion, NASA.
Come to the French
Fucking
Guiana
idiots.
launch site by plane, but Webb was too big for that, so it had to travel by ship, and it went through the Panama Canal.
Let's go, dude.
Up through the locks.
Whoa, it's a boat.
And it took 16 days
Ooh.
to get to the port.
How much money did it take?
In
Know what?
Kourou,
That's what I want to know.
where it was unloaded and traveled to the spaceport. That's not the real Ariane 5, that's a model. Just outside the Jupiter Control Center, actually. It was unpacked.
Make sure you play some
very
sad
carefully
music too.
in the facilities that Raphael was talking about. And then fueling started, and of course, the teams had to wear special suits because that's a dangerous job.
What the?
And then it was placed all the way on top of the Ariane 5 rocket. It was encapsulated inside the fairing and sealed. And then it was rolled out to the launch pad 2 days ago. From the vehicle assembly building to the pad along very special rails.
Oh, special rails, another fucking billion, Johnny.
Through the Amazon rainforest. It was raining
Oh,
at the
cut
time.
down some fucking rainforest, Johnny. Make way for
And
the
that was 2
James
days
Webb,
ago,
dude.
and here
It's
we
all
are
good,
now.
dude.
17 minutes and 46 seconds to launch and counting. All systems are go here at the European Spaceport in Munich. We have 3 control centers on the job today. We have the Mission Control Center here. We also have the Launch Control Center.
You got
which is
Dana
about
right
a
here.
mile from the pad. And then we also have
I'm the one, the evil guy on the side that
telescope
says, "Blow up,
control
fucker!
center,
Blow up!"
Mission Control in Baltimore in the US, and that's where the operational teams are standing by.
Oh,
to
stand
take
by,
over
Johnny.
the
This is gonna be a
telescope
big explosion.
operations. Once it's released from the mothership, that will be about
The fuck?
27
Santa Claus is
minutes
in there.
after launch.
He's got a fucking mask on,
They'll
dude.
be controlling the Webb telescope
Going back
for
to
the
bed,
rest of
dude.
its life. Very important job.
There's probably a fucking reindeer in there too wearing a mask if I look hard enough. Oh, they changed it! You never fucking
The
see it now,
James
Johnny.
Webb Space Telescope is a truly remarkable
Piece of
observatory.
shit.
People have been working on it for over 2 decades. Some people have been working on it for their whole professional lives. Thomas Zurbuchen is the head of science at NASA, and
Oh, flick
he's
your hair,
joining me
baby.
now just to talk about it. Thomas, or Dr. Z, as we can also call you.
Everybody's so
The day
fucking
has
weird at
come.
NASA, dude.
All these decades,
Just be fucking
all this
normal,
time,
dude.
all these people working on the space
Dr. Z.
telescope, and here we are, 16
Be
minutes
normal like
counting
me,
to
dude.
launch.
Put your
It's a
hair up
big
like
day,
this and
huh?
go.
I'm so amazed, right? We have this
Dude,
telescope on top of this rocket, a telescope that
what a dork.
10,000 plus people have worked on in many ways, and together
Is
with
it
that
another
telescope,
fucking
all
Russian
the hopes
operative?
and dreams of those individuals, and
Holy
also
shit.
tens of thousands of scientists, some of them not even born, that will benefit from these data, are there with them, waiting for these last minutes of countdown
Shit, dude, what's
for its
happening
journey
up there?
to space.
I'm guessing people are feeling a combination of emotional excitement.
There's fucking ice chunks falling from the trees.
What's going through people's minds, do you think?
Oh, I think there's a tremendous sense of accomplishment. Whenever you're on top of a rocket, many things went really, really well. There's tremendous pride. There's always a little bit of anxiety. We know launching is hard. We have
Got
one of the
anxiety,
absolute
Johnny?
best teams in
Here,
the
have
world
a Zola.
working on this right now, so I'm confident in that. We're super excited. I mean, it's just an amazing day today.
And what are you most excited about, Dr. Z?
Well, I'm a scientist, so for me, besides the technology that really...
Dr. Z looks like he's about ready to
It's
suck
really
that
the best we
microphone
can
down.
do. What I'm thinking about is really looking at the
Holding
universe
on to
in
that
new
shit
light.
like
We
it's
have
about
never
ready to
seen the
blast off,
universe
too.
how Webb will show it to us. And can you just
Dr.
imagine
Z!
going back in time, 13.5 billion years? It boggles your mind, even as a professional astrophysicist. Kind of just think about all
there's
the
ice
things we
falling
can learn
everywhere.
about our most beautiful universe.
Dr. Z, thank you very, very much for joining us. And I want to wish you and all the teams, everybody, the very best for today's launch. Thank you.
Oh,
So,
they're
yes,
probably
indeed,
clearing the clouds and
So
making way for
we
the
are
James
now
Webb Telescope,
14
so there's
minutes
ice
and
falling,
30
dude.
seconds
Don't worry
to
about it.
launch. We're getting really close now. Everything's going well. All systems are green for launch. And I'm going to hand you over now
Oh, hand
to
it, baby.
NASA's Rob Navius.
The fuck, is there a
in the
football game going on?
Alongside the European Space Agency's Luce Fabregat, who are going to take on the commentary from here on in. Over to you guys. Rob.
See you guys.
Well, thank you, Katie. Merry Christmas to our worldwide audience from our broadcast booth high
What
atop
about
the
me,
Jupiter
dude?
Control Center here in Kourou. Joining me today for this historic launch, my colleague Luce Fabregat, the head of infrastructure and
bunch of
value
Santa
chain for the
Clauses.
European Space Agency. Luce, good morning.
Ugh.
It's great to be with you.
We're
Great to be with
fucked.
you today.
Very pleased to be here with you and all of you watching us for this very special event.
Well, at this hour, countdown clocks are ticking backward. We are at T-minus 13 minutes, 32 seconds and counting. Out on the launch pad, everything is in great shape. Don't let those clouds fool you. We are go for launch.
See, I told you they're clearing the clouds.
Just indicated that all weather parameters are great. We have a green board here.
You
in the
evil
control
fucking
center,
bastards, dude.
and everything has gone extremely smoothly in the countdown. About 9 minutes ago, a major milestone passed as the James Webb Space Telescope began the process and completed the process, receiving commands to transition from external power to internal battery power.
Let's go, fucking. It only took 2 centuries to make. Lord, $10 billion.
Webb will remain on internal battery power.
I at least want to see it blow up, because you know that shit's gonna fuck up when it gets to L2, dude.
After launch. Earlier, telescope controllers reported good environmental readings from sensors inside the fairing, encapsulating the telescope atop the upper stage of the Ariane 5 rocket. And Luce, as we enter the most critical phase of the countdown, can you outline some of the upcoming critical activities as we head into the phase called synchronized sequence?
Yes, Rob. We're now reaching the end of this 11-hour sequence that we call the chronology, and that started yesterday evening. All systems here have been prepared for the final launch operations. And at the time being, it's rather quiet now inside.
If I get a copyright strike on that, then you know I'm a good singer, dude.
We were told a few minutes ago by the launch control center here that the launcher fluids and electric systems are ready for the final automated sequence. They are on hold now, waiting for the last weather report at minus 10 minutes. After this weather report,
That's just confusing.
3 minutes later, we will have the beginning of this
Go away.
famous synchronized sequence when all systems will be made ready for the liftoff. This sequence will first be run by the ground calculator, and then the onboard computer will take the
Google.
lead step by step. And the from the ground system. You know that we have 2 tanks in each
Typical woman.
cryogenic stage, upper stage and main stage. All 4 tanks are, of course, thermally insulated from the hot environment we have here in French Guiana. However, these liquid propellants are at very low temperature, and because of that, slightly evaporate. And to ensure they are perfectly loaded at liftoff, their final loading and topping up will last up to 4 minutes before the launch. So that will be the beginning of the synchronized sequence run by the ground calculators.
Shut up and press the button.
Then we will have on the fluid side the end of the topping up, the final loading and the topping up of the different tanks. And on the electrical side, we will have the onboard computer getting prepared for the launch also, and it will be uploaded with the H0, with the H0 time, the time for the liftoff, which is today at 9 at the beginning of the window, 9:20 local time, 7:20 Eastern time.
And Luce, we're coming up on that final weather report.
Oh, there goes a bird.
All systems to remain green. We'll be going down to the fifth fold to confirm that just a
Fuck, I
moment
missed
or
every
two
shot,
from now. It's a 27-minute ride to orbit from liftoff until the time that the Webb Observatory is separated from the upper stage of the Ariane 5 rocket. Several minutes later, the commands will be given to unfurl its solar array, followed by the confirmation
Unfurl it,
from
dude.
the telescope controllers
Unfurl
in
your
Baltimore
pants, Johnny. It'll be the
that,
first
we are
time in your
power
fucking life,
positive,
dude.
meaning that electrical current is flowing
Oh,
through
let
that
it
solar
flow, dude.
array. With us today, inside the so-called fishbowl, seated with mission controllers on the floor of the control room,
Sure is a
is
bunch of
Raphael
fucking fish in
Chevrier
there.
of Ariane Spas. Raphael, how's everything looking? What's being discussed down there?
Hi, Rob. Well, so far so good. We just received the last weather forecast. It's all green for
A lot of
the
activity.
8
There's
euro
more
that is
activity going on my
forecast
fucking
right now.
rooftop with
What
ice
will
falling
change
off it than
was
NASA, dude.
altitude winds, wind in the vicinity of the launch pad, and risk of lightning. So right now, it's a relief because there was a bit tough in the last couple of days, but right now everybody is very focused on the next steps. The start of the synchronized sequence at 7 minutes before liftoff. Last operations that Luz described earlier before Webb and the Ariane 5 are going to lift off and soar into the sky.
Thanks, Raphael. We'll be back with you and Luce.
Thanks,
shortly.
Michelangelo.
We now have
Thanks, Donatello.
confirmation from
Thanks,
Baltimore
Leonardo,
that
dude.
James Webb is on internal power.
Back to you, Splinter.
Amidst all of this activity, we cannot forget that it is Christmas Day. 53 years ago, the astronauts of Apollo 8 completed their 10th and final orbit of the moon after reading from the Book of Genesis on Christmas Eve to billions of people watching with rapt attention back on our
The
planet.
Book of the Johnnies,
The
dude.
astronauts then headed for home following their spacecraft's trans-Earth injection burn.
Ugh, don't inject
Today,
me.
more than
No.
a half-century later, we're just minutes away from another Genesis. The
Oh, you know it,
Genesis of
dude.
New Era.
I'm gonna show you a
discovery.
Genesis, Johnny.
Launch of the James Webb
This shit's
Space
gonna be like,
Telescope.
boo!
We're just 38 seconds away from entering the critical synchronized sequence. You're going to be hearing all the critical calls from the DDO, the Range
I hear 'em,
Operations
dude.
Manager, who is Jean-Luc Voyer.
Fucking, they got Jean-Luc Picard?
The mission control
No
center.
fucking
There
way.
he is. He will be
This guy,
calling the
dude,
start of
you gotta put
synchronized
sunglasses
sequence,
on when you
all of
fucking
the
talk to
critical
him, dude.
countdown milestones, and we will be
Holy
listening
shit.
very intently for his calls. Let's stand by.
À tous de DDO. Attention pour la séquence finale lanceur.
Huh?
Top. À 0-7 minutes.
I can't hear you with the fucking diaper on your face.
And with that, we've entered the period of synchronized sequence. You heard Luce Fabregat just a moment or two ago explain some of the critical activities. The first one coming up just a few seconds from now.
Oh,
which
here
will
he
be
goes,
the
Johnny.
topping off of the main
641.
stage tanks.
Come on.
The first or core stage was loaded earlier this morning with 175 tons of propellant, 150 tons of liquid oxygen, and 25 tons of liquid hydrogen. The upper stage loaded with 15 tons of propellant. That will be the workhorse for a 16-minute burn to lift James Webb to its final orbit. At separation, some 27 minutes and 7 seconds after launch,
Look at that cheesy
James
engine.
Webb will be at an
Fucking
altitude
Vulcan
of about
engine.
864 statute
Looks like a
miles.
Merlin engine.
To put that into perspective, some 500
That's a Merlin engine,
miles
dude.
higher than the Hubble Space Telescope and more than 600 miles higher than the International Space Station. Webb at that point will be traveling about 21,000 miles an hour as it heads out to a highly elliptical halo-like racetrack orbit some 1 million miles from Earth to begin its scientific observations.
Fucking $10 billion and they call it a racetrack, Johnny.
In a little more than 1 minute from now, we will see the 4 tanks pressurized at their flight level for the last
Whatever
tests.
happened to those fucking
For
remote
the
controls they were
ignition of
supposed to
the
send up to the
engine.
moon and fucking have a race on the fucking
And in
moon
parallel,
with
the
the remote
backup
controls,
system
dude? Because
are also set
I'd
to
rather watch that,
configuration
dude.
of the board computer. The electrical power, as for the telescope, it will switch from ground to internal power 1 minute before the launch, 1 minute and 5 seconds before the launch. And we are going to see -6 seconds. At -6 seconds, we will see the disconnection of the upper stage, this big cryogenic
the upper
arc you can
stage?
see on this picture. Then, 3 seconds before the H0, the inertial platform that will give all the information about where it is to the launcher will be released. And at H0, the 7-second sequence to ignite the Vulcan engine of the main stage will start. That will take 7 seconds, a little less than 7 seconds, where the engine will start up to its flight regime. Once the computer has checked that the Vulcan engine is running
HD
normally,
vision
and
activated.
you will see at that point a flame going stable at the outlet of the nozzle. And at that point, the onboard computer will ignite the 2 boosters that will enable to move the 770 tons of Ariane and Webb.
Coming up on the T-minus 4 minute mark right now.
I didn't hear a
Just
fucking word of
couple
that, dude.
milestones real quick. At the 1 minute 5 second mark into the flight, Ariane 5 will go through the period of maximum dynamic pressure, max Q as it's known. That will be the period of maximum aerodynamic forces on the rocket itself. The solid rocket boosters, which will provide about 90% of the initial
You're
thrust
looking, you
of
can
the
watch the
launch,
streaming glasses,
will
dude.
shut down and separate at the 2 minute 21 second mark into the flight, followed 1 minute and 5 seconds after that by fairing jettison.
They're talking about the
That will
minutes
expose
before
the
they even
James Webb
happen,
Space
dude. Like,
Telescope to the environment of flight
come
for
on,
the first
Lord.
time. The main stage separation, or the first stage separation, comes at the T-minus at the 8 minute 47 second mark into the flight.
Separate your fucking
And that
legs,
will be
Johnny.
about a 16 minute burn of that upper stage engine. It will cut off at about 24 minutes 51 seconds into the flight, and then we'll go into a coast phase of about 2.5 minutes to allow any oscillations to dampen out, provide the most pristine environment for the James Webb Telescope before observatory separation.
2 minutes 54 seconds.
We're coming up on the 2 minute 50 second mark into the flight. Again, you're
Not
going
what
to be
I said,
hearing
dude.
critical calls down the stretch here from the DDO, or the Range Operations Manager, Jean-Luc Voyer.
Jean-Luc Picard. Warp 3.
The weather is go. We have a green board. No issues being worked.
Dude, stop
NASA
copying
officials,
me, dude.
including Greg Robinson on the right, carefully watching the telemetry, looking intently at the final couple of minutes of the countdown. Lives have been spent in the preparation.
Woo! She's
of
a
the James
cutie.
Webb Space
Yeah, what's
Telescope
up,
that is
girl?
about to fly.
And Beatrice Romero on his side, on the left of the
Oh,
screen.
get Lex
From
Luthor
Iron
off of
Space.
here, dude. I don't want to look at him anymore. Ugh.
And that is the
NASA,
DDO, the Range
get Lex
Operations
Luthor off
Manager,
the feed.
Jean-Luc Voyer, as we have hit the 2 minute mark in the countdown.
Ugh. Dude, he's giving me a headache.
The flight will be in 2 phases. You will
Oh,
see the
look at
first
them all,
part of the
Johnny.
flight during the solid rocket
They're gonna
booster
run when,
phase.
because it's gonna blow
That
up,
will be
dude.
the atmospheric part of
They're
the
like,
flight.
everybody get the fuck out of here.
And the
She's
trajectory
gonna
will be
blow.
Driven by a very to reduce the aerodynamic loads, and then we will have a very different.
Look at them, they're
exoatmospheric
fucking running,
flight
dude.
after that.
These guys are like, they're
And you
going
were
down with
watching,
it, dude.
a number of people, VIPs and invited guests, moving out to the
These
observation
these guys have a
platform.
good life
It is right
insurance
next,
policy.
to the Jupiter Control Center. As we stand by for the 1 minute call from Jean-Luc Voyer.
À tous les DDO, attention pour moins 1 minute.
What, dude? I couldn't hear your head.
À 0 moins 1 minute.
Thumbs up from Jean-Luc Voyer. All systems are go. We're inside a minute now. T-minus 50 seconds and counting. As you heard earlier, the Vulcan 2 engine will ignite. Turbo pumps will come up to flight speed for 7 seconds.
Oh, Vulcan 2 engine. Oh,
the solid rocket
fucking
boosters.
fancy, huh?
James Webb
I thought they were
Space
Merlin
Telescope will be on
engines.
its way.
They look just like the fucking Merlin engines.
T-minus 30 seconds and counting.
Here we go, girls. Giggy.
Standing by for terminal count.
À tous les DDO, attention pour les décomptes finales.
Come on with that shit.
10, 9, 8,
What?
7, 6, 5,
How am I supposed to know, dude?
3, 2,
What the fuck is quat?
top.
And we have engine start.
I don't hear him. Must be some kind of...
Allumage UAP, décollage.
Decollage, liftoff from a tropical rainforest to the edge of time itself. James Webb begins a voyage back to the birth of the universe.
We got a problem there. Yep. A seagull hit it.
punching a hole through the
Oh, it's punching him,
20
John.
seconds into the flight. Good pitch program reported.
Oh, I see a problem in the left engine, Johnny.
Trajectoire est nominale.
Numenam. Numenam. Quiet.
Vehicle
Quiet.
performance is nominal.
Oh. I can't see, dude.
The Ariane 5 rocket continues to fly uphill in nominal fashion. The rumble of the powerful Ariane 5 now
Feel
being
the
felt
rumble,
here in the
Johnny.
control center. 3D animation.
We can hear the noise and feel the vibrations here. You're right, Rob. Yeah, impressive.
13 kilometers in altitude, 7 kilometers downrange, traveling about 0.6 kilometers per second.
Les paramètres à bord sont normaux.
The trajectory reported to be nominal by Jean-Luc Voyer, the range operations manager. See at the bottom of your screen, the yellow line is the trajectory
gee,
plot.
why didn't I do that
perfectly
before?
Overlaid over the green line, which was the pre-launch trajectory.
Now I can read the
1 minute 41
text
seconds into the flight, about 40 seconds away from
Pilotage est calme.
shutdown of the solid rocket boosters. Coming up on the 2-minute mark into the flight.
When it detects the threshold on acceleration, not the deceleration, but less acceleration.
Tous les paramètres à bord sont normaux.
Everything is okay. Everything is normal.
2 minutes 15 seconds into the flight.
When the computer detects
comes the
this
separation,
threshold,
Johnny.
it will separate.
Oh,
Séparation des heures.
Riley.
Done.
We have confirmation of solid rocket booster separation.
Oh,
from
maybe it's
Jean-Luc
gonna make it,
Voyer.
Johnny.
Is coming at an altitude of 44 miles. The Ariane 5 and James Webb traveling almost 5,000 miles an hour.
Is it?
We have about 1
do
minute
that on my
5
moped,
seconds
dude.
to go before fairing jettison. That'll be the next critical milestone.
The fairing is there to avoid the satellite being exposed to high temperatures and also high airflows. And as soon as the launcher leaves the atmosphere, as is now the case, the satellite does not need anymore to be protected, and Webb does not need anymore to be
Coming up is our second
So
separation.
each kilogram being very important for the performance of the launch.
It's already
we
past
are
the
going
stage
to
where it was gonna
inject
blow up.
this
It would have
no
blew
more
up. So
useful fairing.
the high dynamic stage there.
And let's go down to the floor in the Jupiter Control Center to Raphael Chevrier of Arianespace. Raphael, so far so good.
Hi, Rob. So far, so good. Everything is nominal, as we say, when attitude and trajectory of the Ariane 5 is going.
We got the top
perfectly
capsule
well,
has
as you can see
separated.
also on the yellow line
Lagage de la coiffe.
on the screen. We
That's
have
what
a
I
definition
did
of
why
the,
squash
separation
means.
of the two side boosters, and now of the fairing, meaning that we have crossed the limits of the atmosphere. So everything is going
Tous les paramètres à
super
bord sont
good.
normaux.
And the DDO just said that all parameters are going perfectly smoothly. So
The
let's
fuck is
continue
that?
the mission.
And Raphael, this is a view from the upper stage camera called the Vicky Cam, looking back at the James Webb Space Telescope. This is on about a 20-second delay or so because of the way the imagery is processed here in the control room. There's your
There she
telescope,
is.
ready to unfurl its wings, basically, and begin its journey.
How are they
to
moving like
the
that, dude?
Lagrange
There's no
point,
wind.
the L2 point, about 1 million miles away
Oh,
from
fuck.
Earth.
That's a little weird, but
Le trajectoire
oh my
est nominale.
god!
Trajectory is nominal. The report from Jean-Luc Voyer.
Fucking ice falling off my roof, dude. Scared the shit out of me.
The liftoff time confirmed here in the Mission Control Center at 12:20 Greenwich Mean Time, 9:20
I thought it
a.m.
was aliens.
Peru
so-
time, 7:20 a.m. Eastern Time. The Ariane 5 and James Webb, 181 kilometers in altitude, 450
Le trajectoire est nominale.
kilometers downrange from the launch site.
I'm
here in
curious why
Peru.
that fucking shit was moving around, dude. Like, there's no wind in space, dude. There's nothing in space.
5 minutes, 12 seconds into the flight. We have about 3.5 minutes to go in main stage or first stage performance. And again, you can see at the bottom of your screen the yellow plot line overlaid over the green line, meaning we are right on course, right down the pike, and a perfect trajectory so far for the Ariane 5 rocket.
Paramètres à bord sont normaux.
All telemetry data are now received by the Galio tracking station.
It's called telemetry, dude.
Which is close to here, where we are in Kourou. It will track the launcher at the ignition of its upper stage.
Pilotage calme, la propulsion est nominale.
And then we'll
How
go
the fuck do
without
these people
the
launch a
data
rocket, dude?
station in Brazil, Ascension in the, as you can see on the map, in the middle of the ocean, and the two last
Fucking
stations
stupid.
in Africa, Libreville and Malindi, one on the
Who knows
east
if they
coast,
even
the
did,
one on
dude?
the west coast, and the one on the west coast, Malindi, you can see that the satellite will be, the telescope will be separated more or less over this Malindi station, and this Malindi station will also acquire the telemetry data from the telescope. You can see both are green, Galio and Datal on this animation. It means they are expected to receive the data, and it was confirmed right now by the launch operations manager.
Acquisition de la télémesure par la station du Natal au Brésil.
What about a PlayStation, dude?
Telemetry is being processed through the Brazilian tracking station. The telescope is also processing telemetry through the tracking and data relay satellite system. As it moves further and further out into deep space, all of the telescope's telemetry and its imagery ultimately will be processed through the Deep Space Network in Goldstone, California. We passed the 7-minute mark into the flight. A perfect ride so far on the Ariane 5. We have about
like 200 miles above the Earth.
The first stage performance. Once the main
Planes fly around
engine
like
is commanded to cut
60
off,
miles above,
it will
or
be
a little
jettisoned.
lower.
And just a few seconds after that, the upper stage engine will ignite, and it will be the workhorse for a 16-minute burn that will put James Webb into its preliminary orbit.
So pretty. It looks better than the real thing. It only cost a couple billion to make those digital animations too. Don't worry about it, dude.
Institute will be sending commands to prepare James Webb for the initial series of commissioning activities that will lead to the deployment of its solar array and the initiation of generation of electrical power for the telescope. About 30 seconds away from main engine cutoff.
La trajectoire est normale.
Nominal trajectory continues to be the watchword for the day from the Range Operations Manager, Jean-Luc Voyer, as we stand by for main engine shutdown and separation.
Extinction de l'EPC.
Where's that going, dude? Wait, where'd the rest of it go, dude?
Opération EPC.
And we have main stage shutdown and separation confirmed here on the Mission
Oh,
Control
fuck,
Center, and the ignition of that upper stage.
What happened to the school bus that just dropped off of the fucking thing?
In the fishbowl.
Don't worry about
So
that,
far, so
dude.
good.
Yes, Rob, we have the confirmation of the separation of the main stage and the ignition of the
trajectoire
upper
est nominale.
stage. The trajectory is perfectly nominal. This is very
Fuck,
important.
I hope it don't
for
fall
us
on me.
because it's always a challenge to switch
Where is
on
it?
a
Hold on.
cryogenic engine in space condition, and we are
What?
now at 220
Fuck is all this shit?
kilometers of altitude.
It's over
Speed
Africa.
is
Oh, okay,
more
dude.
than 700 seconds as we enter now the second stage of the second phase of the flight. The upper stage is going to power for
Pilotage est calme.
about 16 minutes to place Webb on its transfer orbit, and right now everything is again nominal, as the DDO just said.
And a short time from now, the so-called sawtooth maneuver will get underway. Again, like rocking a baby in a cradle, this will be a maneuver to keep Webb's optics protected from overheating loose.
Exactly, Rob, like a baby in a cradle. You can see here Webb attached on top of Ariane 5 upper stage with a very specific configuration. Of course, it will be different during its lifetime, but for the time being, its sun shield is folded and not yet fully protecting the observatory. A number of exhaustive studies have been performed by the mission teams in Europe, in the US, on the thermal conditioning inside the telescope and the way the rays of the sun would propagate and interact with sensitive equipment inside the telescope. Maintain this thermal conditioning is really key before separating this telescope. And in particular, we know that one face of the telescope cannot face the sun. That's why to produce these right thermal conditions inside Webb, a specific roll law has been designed, what we call the sawtooth approach. And if you are watching carefully to these images, you can see this animation. You can see that the upper stage is going 30 degrees on one side, then 30 degrees on the other side, going back and forth this way to maintain this perfect thermal conditioning for the telescope.
It's worthwhile noting that after Webb separates from the upper stage of the Ariane 5 rocket, continues to perform the flight, the telescope controllers will be taking the baton, if you will, from the mission controllers here in Kourou. The first steps will be the opening of fuel valves, a pair of fuel valves, to start flowing fuel to Webb's onboard thrusters. They then will power on the valve drive electronics. Those are powered on in preparation to control and fire those thrusters when required. Webb's solar array is scheduled to be deployed at approximately the 33-minute mark into the flight. Once it is locked in place, we'll get the call that electricity is flowing through the array. That call will come from the Mission Operations Manager, Carl Starr, who's at the Space Telescope Science Institute at Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. Seated right behind him in that control room is Alicia Starr.
That's her name.
Starr is helping to guide James Webb on its discovery of the stars. Alicia Starr is the lead engineer for launch and ascent events. Once the solar array is deployed and declared power positive, then 3 out of the 4 hold downs for the aft deployed
Wait, that means they're married. Because there was a star before her.
The cool down of the telescope's composite structure. The contamination control heaters will be enabled to protect instrument optics on Webb from any water ice condensation as they cool down. The actuator drive unit will be powered on. This particular mechanism helps with heater control of the fine steering mirror, preventing water ice condensation, later to be used to position each of the mirror's segments. All 6 reaction wheels and the wheel drive electronics will be powered on for Webb, and that will be the precursor to the attitude control system using those reaction wheels to maintain the proper orientation with the sun, as opposed to using onboard thrusters. Of course, fuel in those thrusters, very valuable. It's a limited commodity for the lifetime of James Webb's observations of the universe.
Where's all the hotties?
We're 13 minutes, 55 seconds into the flight.
I'm going to find the hottest girl, dude. Where is she?
Boyer, the range operations manager, continues to report a nominal performance.
That ain't the hottest girl. That's Bernie Sanders. What the fuck?
And again, Luce Fabregat from the European Space Agency. How is this trajectory being carefully and methodically adjusted to provide the correct parameters in the final stages of ascent?
Yes, Rob, as you can see on this plot, the altitude is slightly going down. It's perfectly normal. The launch vehicle is really on the line where it should be. This decrease of its altitude, slight decrease of its altitude, will allow the launcher to benefit and the upper stage to benefit of the gravity effect. And
I'm about done with this fucking shit, Lord.
Until it reaches a thermal threshold. It's about to reach it, or even already reached it now, and it will go up. And now it will go up and up to the separation of the Webb telescope. It will separate the Webb telescope on a highly elliptic orbit, but still around the Earth. The telescope will be
Yeah, I'm done with
released,
this, but
inserted on a
I'll stream
orbit
some more
around the
later.
Earth, with an apogee, a very high apogee above 1 million
Trajectoire est
kilometers.
normale.
This sucks.
Trajectory